Hi, I'm Dan Gable with Shore Murphy and Associates at KZ, and this is another episode of Big Agent in a Small Town. For many businesses and industries in Illinois, it is mandatory for them to carry workers' comp insurance to cover injuries to their workers. One of the exemptions in the state of Illinois is many farm operations. In the state of Illinois, if a farm operation has employees with fewer than 400 working days for any quarter of the previous year, they're exempt from workers' comp insurance, and it's not mandatory that they carry it. So again, this is Illinois specific. That requirement can vary state by state, so just keep that in mind as we go through this. But so I want to talk about those farm operations where workers' comp isn't mandatory. There are two options they have who have insurance coverage for injury to their employees, which are employer's liability and workers' comp insurance. So I'm going to outline in how each of those work and the differences between the two, and what's often most beneficial to most farm operations. So first, employer's liability. One of the positives to it is employer's liability is much less expensive than workers' comp insurance. So just to get that out of the way up front, when it comes to a cost perspective, a couple things are unique to it compared to workers' comp insurance is employer's liability will only pay if the farm operation is negligent in the injury to the employee. So for coverage to trigger on the policy, an employee would have to be injured, and also the farmer or farm operation's negligence would have to have led to that injury. If someone gets injured through no fault of the farm operation, there's no coverage on the employer's liability. Another thing to keep in mind is employer's liability does have set coverage limits, and normally it's the same liability limit as what you have on your farm policy. So that typically will be anywhere from $300,000 to $1 million, and is the liability limit you find on most farm policies. On any injury, if there was a death or someone was permanently disabled and their care exceeded the policy limit, your policy would only pay up to that limit. So that brings us to workers' comp. So the first negative with workers' comp is that it's more expensive. But besides that, there are more positives than negatives. So it's a no-fault coverage for workers' comp. So the workers' comp policy is going to pay if that farm worker is injured, or whether it's any fault of your farm operation or not. So it's just it can avoid potentially uncomfortable situations. I mean, you think if you had a farm employee who was killed in an accident or permanently disabled, if you only have employer's liability, they potentially might have to sue you to pursue the payment for the care that they need. Whereas workers' comp, there can still be disagreements over the scope of injuries and things like that, but there's no debate over whether the policy is going to pay or not due to negligence. The other thing too is that there is no policy limit on workers' comp coverage. Workers' comp covers state statute. So let's say that there is a bad accident where a farm worker is permanently disabled. Well, the workers' comp policy would pay for their medical and ongoing care with no policy limit there. So in conclusion, we're looking at this, even though the cost is lower on employer's liability, growing up in a farm community here, I would say it's important to most farmers wanting to make sure that their farm workers are taken care of if something does happen. And workers' comp insurance is going to accomplish that the most through the no-fault coverage, and then also the no policy limit if a truly catastrophic situation happens as well too. If you have any questions about protection for injuries to your farm workers, please reach out to me by phone or text at 217-932 2267, or by email to Dan, DAN, at shoremurphykz, SHOREMURPHYCASEY.com. Thank you.